What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining me again here on the wagon. It's been a long time since my last podcast, and I'm really excited to do this one. We'll be talking to Kyle Bock, who is a brother and a friend to me for, 30 years, maybe more. Kyle is definitely an adventurer, a seeker of wisdom, someone I've looked up to in a lot of ways. I mean, we've been, friends forever, brothers, more than friends. Always loved following his adventures. He's hiked the AT. We will talk about that. He lived in Alaska for 18 years. Freaking Alaska. Who the hell lives in Alaska? I mean, it's awesome. But anyway, without further ado, Mr. Kyle Bock. What's up?
Hey man, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. What's going on over there? I'm looking forward to some more of your workout vids.
Oh yeah, man. I got to get one in tonight after this recording. I'm sore as hell, but hey, man, it's all part of it, right?
No, it's part of the solution, that's for sure.
Oh hell yeah. Oh, by the way, I am in Cleveland right now at a training for work, and so you might hear some echoes in my hotel room, but whatever. I couldn't wait to talk to Kyle. Sorry, dude, that we didn't get to do this face to face. I know that was the game plan, but life always has other plans for you.
It appears as though this is working.
Yeah, absolutely. So I got Kyle on here. He has one hell of a journey to talk about. I mean, it goes all the way back to high school, through high school, leaving high school for Alaska, in Alaska, coming home, going to the AT, which is the Appalachian Trail, if you don't know what that means. He's back home in Boyertown, which I love. I'm sure he doesn't much love being in Boyertown, but it's good for me because I get to see him. But Kyle, man, I'll pass it over to you, dude. Like, I guess, what's your story? I mean, where does it all begin?
Well, I was thinking about this, and I think where the only reason I'm sitting here on the end of this line is because of my first drunk, and I was just thinking about going back to my first drunk when I was in seventh grade, and my first drunk I came to at my buddy JR's kitchen table with his mom feeding me coffee with one shoe on, no shirt. Bruises all over my face, scrapes all over my faces, my knuckles all swollen, and a hurt shoulder. And I found out later, I don't know if it was that night or the next day, but that I'd gotten drunk and like was punching myself in the face and running my head
Oh man.
into a brick wall, like
Oh
quite
shit.
literally. So that started my career as an alcoholic, and I've pretty much been a blackout drinker all my years out there, and it can be a scary ordeal, and I put myself and a lot of other people in in a lot of situations that I don't like to look back on, just all the drinking and driving and all that stupid shit that you do.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Someone asks for your keys and God forbid you have to sleep on someone's couch.
Yep. Like, no, man, you're not getting my keys. I'm fine. I can drive. Yeah, I've been there.
That's one of the nice things about going out now is not having to worry about driving. I mean,
Yeah, how about it?
not even having to sweat it.
Yeah, like you talked to Lindsay, which we have. I think we've talked about this, but she'll tell you, like, when I went out without her, when I was drinking, she was home worried sick. Like, what am I going to get into? Where am I going to end up? Am I going to drive? Am I going to hurt myself? Hurt someone else? We talked about this not too long ago. She's like, dude, I don't even worry about you anymore. It's the best feeling ever. And I mean, that's a part of what makes it all worth it. I mean, it just goes along with what you said. You don't have to worry anymore. Like before, you're like, shit, if a cop sees me driving, he's going to pull me over and I'm done.
Well, that's happened to me a couple times. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers back in the early '80s or the late '70s or something. After they won their 4 Super Bowls, they were looking for a fifth, and they were saying one for the thumb. Well, my my list of DUIs, extends to my thumb today. I got one starting in 2001 and my last one in, 2018. So 5 DUIs later, and 11 months of my life without my freedom behind bars in jail and stuff.
Ugh.
I avoided going to prison for a year, going into this long-term therapeutic community for like 15 months, and it. You said something earlier about not hurting yourself or anyone else, and I spent most of my you know time in substance abuse thinking that I was only hurting myself, right?
Oh yeah.
And that's pretty much the biggest misnomer that you can have, when in regards to addiction, because it goes so much further beyond that. I mean, thinking about what Lindsay was going through, thinking about you at night. Well, imagine my mom, for the past, uh, I mean, since I was 13 years old, since it all started.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's unreal. It has to be one like addiction, like drugs or alcohol, has to be one of the most selfish. I don't want to say selfish because when you're in the throngs of it, you don't think about it that way. But looking back
Right.
on it, you're just like, holy shit, man! Like I only really worried about myself. I mean, that's how I was. I can't speak for you, but I know that's how I was.
Well, yeah, I mean, look at it, I look at it like that as well, and then that stuff, it spills over to your relationships and stuff. I mean, it's not an accident that I'm 44 years old and not married and was never able to, really sustain a long-term relationship, and that was because of my addiction, because of those selfish thoughts, because it was what I wanted. And it's hard to, when you've been quote unquote taking care of yourself for your whole life. For me, it was moving up to Alaska 10 days after graduating high school, when we
Yep.
graduated in 97, and then, being on my own that time and taking care of myself and not having to answer to anyone else. And, I'm happy to say that today, I do have someone, to have the support, to be there to support. And sometimes the best support you can have is just to listen. Um,
For sure. And by the way, she is absolutely an amazing person. Dude, I love her to death, and I can't wait to see her again. Hopefully, she decides to visit, or we'll come out there and visit her, or whatever. Like, she is such a cool person, such a sweetheart, and she's the real deal, 100%.
well, don't be surprised if you see me getting out of B Town here sometime soon.
Yeah, I figured that was not too far.
But I was thinking about, how lucky some people are. Go. I say lucky, using quotation marks, but honestly, the amount of wear and tear that has happened, like psychologically, over the years of like knowing that I've been an addict and alcoholic since I was a teenager, right? Like being in, I was in my first treatment center, junior year of high school as a heroin addict,
Right.
and so I've known this my whole time. So basically, I've known throughout all these years when I was fucking up. It wasn't like, I ever. It set me up to speak very self-deprecating towards myself, and calling myself names, and speaking in these unspeakable tongues, that I would never say
Right.
to anyone else.
Yep.
Um, and as opposed to, say, someone that's however old, and they're questioning if they're an alcoholic, and they're going down the list and they're saying this, that, the other. But like, I want to ask you, like, what is an alcoholic? Like, what makes a human being an alcoholic?
That's a really, really good question, dude. I know for me, like, it's such a hard thing to define, but for me, I could if I had to, but I didn't want to go a night without drinking, and I pretty much did everything I could. It revolved everything around drinking. Like, if we were going somewhere and there wasn't drinking involved, I was not happy about it. I'd make sure that I had my fix. I had my shots before I got there, or I had a buzz going. I think the definition of an alcoholic is also someone that can or that can't go to a bar and have just one or a couple. You know what I mean? There's quite a few times where I'm like, all right, we're going out. I'm just going to have one, and then we'll go home. Yeah, that one turns into five, which turns into an argument, which turns into Lindsay going home and me staying there with whoever the hell I was, whoever's ear I was bending and whatever stupid shit I was talking about, getting drunk. That's an alcoholic for me. Other people have different definitions of it. I, I guess it comes down to it's personal for everyone. The definition of an alcoholic. I never, until recently, even in my sobriety, I say sobriety. That's it's alcohol that I'm sober from, and drugs, hard drugs. But I haven't called myself an alcoholic until it's here. It's been recent. Um,
Lucky you.
I, yeah, I hear you. I always knew I had a problem, but when you're in the problem, you're like, dude, I'm not an alcoholic. I just like to drink a lot. That was
Sure.
me. Yeah, you know what I mean. That was just me. I don't know what I'm trying to say. The word, but I guess making excuses for myself.
Well, I can say that there's literally never been a time in my life where I had one drink in a day. Um,
Yeah, no, yeah, me
I
neither.
can't, it's not even that I can't remember it. Like, it's that I'm certain it's never happened. Give me a thimbleful of vodka or something, and that would be it for the rest of the day. That's
Yeah,
all it would take for me. That doesn't necessarily fit the definition of every alcoholic, but a true alcoholic can't walk away once they have the feeling of alcohol on their brain, right? Their brain's just wet and sitting in a vat of a depressant, and it's not only a depressant. It can, alcohol can make you excited, it can make you happy, it can
oh
leave you
yeah, hmm
red in the face, rubbing elbows, slapping people's backs, and high-fiving and feeling on top of the world. But it's the my drinking got to a point where before I was even getting anywhere, I was already wasted, right? I was already,
oh yeah,
a pint of vodka deep or whatever, and it just, drinking hasn't been fun for me. And I mean, I'm not gonna lie, there were a lot of those years in Alaska, it was fun, right?
right,
And
yep,
in Alaska, you have every reason to drink, right? Because in the winter, you're trying to drink off the winter and the lack of daylight, and then in the summer, there's all daylight, and you have
you're
every
celebrating or
yeah,
something.
you're celebrating summer, right? And
Yeah, sure.
you're celebrating the fucking sun shining,
Oh
as
yeah,
opposed to not
yep,
being there. But yeah, it didn't ever matter for me if there was some, like, you know great triumph or an utter failure. Like, it didn't matter if the sun was shining or it was raining. That's when I
yeah,
knew I was an alcoholic, because I didn't need an excuse to drink anymore. There didn't have to be a reason. It didn't have to be the Super Bowl. It didn't have to be because, the Birds were playing on Sunday. It didn't have to be because I finished a race or whatever. It didn't have anything to do with any of that stuff. And that's like, that's when I really, that all it takes is a thimbleful.
yeah,
Just a
yeah,
just a tiny thimbleful, and that will change my brain and alter my brain to where I'll do whatever I have to do to get my next fix. And that's what it became for me, because I drink in a manner that isn't social. I don't sit at the bar. I pull the blinds, and drink my alcohol hard and fast, and it doesn't last long, and the effects are immediate, and it does feel like I'm getting a fix. And I
oh
mean,
yeah,
my last stint in rehab, I was in withdrawal so bad, that I couldn't walk a flight of stairs 8 weeks
Damn.
after finishing the Appalachian Trail. I couldn't walk a flight of stairs for, I don't know, 4.5 days or something.
Damn.
Um, and the morning drinking when that starts, it's you know, that's a really difficult thing to come back from because you're physically, physiologically setting up your body to be completely dependent on alcohol. And as someone who's withdrawn off of heroin, I'm here to tell you that the withdrawal from alcohol is makes heroin withdrawal look like the flu. You know,
Yeah. Wow. Well, let's talk about your let's talk about heroin, a little bit of your time with it, where it led to. I have a question about when you did finally kick the habit of or the addiction of heroin. Did you lean on alcohol as a substitute, and did the spiral continue from there? That's something I actually always wanted to ask you, even in chatting around, and I just never think of it when I'm with you.
well, that's an easy thing for me to talk about because it's the root of it's the root of my story, really, and the root of my addiction. So yeah, it was pretty fucking cool to like up and bolt for Alaska, 10 days after graduating. But all I essentially did was just switch out the needle for the bottle, and
So your
which
trip to Alaska was it was pretty much not running, but it
no,
was
no, it
moving away.
was,
Okay,
it
like
was.
running
You're
from your
you're
heroin
you're
your heroin addiction, pretty much, right?
you're correct, and
Okay,
so and that did totally fix it, right? I know I could probably find heroin if I looked really hard in Alaska, but
right,
I never saw it, and I never even wanted a part of it, right? And so
right.
it just became, it just became the past. And so, in switching out for the bottle, the problems were way worse.
Right.
In the, as the drinking progressed, right? Like, you don't become an alcoholic overnight. I
No, you
mean,
sure don't.
it takes a lot of time and hard work. I mean, you want to talk about a workout with like just your body and no weights. There's a workout just, putting all the effort and time into fucking drinking.
Yeah, for sure, and it puts a beat down on you too, especially now that we're older. I mean, 3 day hangovers, yeah, forget it.
Oh yeah, no, that's a thing.
Oh, 100%, 100%.
That's
I don't know.
absolutely a thing.
Dude, I don't know how I did it. I mean, drinking during the week, how I drank, waking up in the morning for work, going to work, like fully hungover, sometimes still drunk. Dude, fucking looking back on it, I have no idea how I couldn't do it now. I mean,
Looking back on it, you and I both probably could have gotten 100 DUIs any given morning.
oh, dude, without a doubt.
At whatever early a time at the ass crack of dawn or whenever we're getting up and going to work. I mean, are you kidding me?
Oh yeah, without a doubt. All right, so you ran to Alaska, lived there for 18 years, spiraled with alcohol. Um,
Slowly but
I mean,
surely.
yeah, I mean, 18 years is a long time to just make a short segment in this episode, but we could talk about it all day. Maybe another episode we'll talk about all of it. So you move. Well, what made you move back home the first time? Like,
So I came back in 2016 after getting my fourth DUI, and
you're all
this
in
happened.
Alaska.
Yeah, so this happened in February,
Okay.
and I was like, "Fuck it, I need to go home and get help," right? And
Hmm.
I came home, and we had stuff lined up for me to go into treatment right away. I mean, I up and sold my shit. I think I moved from Alaska in the span of like 10 days or something. And I came home, and I had to check in on probation from a DUI I got here after coming home from an Eagles game at a checkpoint.
Oh
And
wow.
um, so anyway, I came home back here. I had to check into probation the next day. My mom had to take me there because I couldn't drive, right? And this is
Right.
this is right after I got back, because you have to check into probation however many hours after you get back.
Sure.
So they call my name. I go through a door. The door shuts. My mom's waiting out there reading Good Housekeeping or whatever the hell magazine, sitting there, and they just slapped cuffs on me right away. They're like, "Man, you just violated your probation." As a someone that transferred to another state, they slapped cuffs on me that second, that moment, and I was in the back of a paddy wagon going to jail.
Holy shit.
So that's how I ended up back here. But I came back to go to treatment, and of course I got out of jail, and I was like, "You kidding? I'm
Like
fucking
fuck
90.
that.
I'm 90 days sober. You're not going to tell
Yeah.
me I need to go to treatment now," which is about the most boneheaded thing that and ignorant thing that I could have said at the time. But
Sure.
sometimes our addictions speak for us.
Yeah. No, I mean, you still weren't in the right mind. You were still in the addiction mindset. It sounds like, I mean, that's how we do it. I've quit alcohol before, always less than a year. Got in trouble in the Coast Guard, and did the whole outpatient treatment thing, which was awesome, and then stopped going there, and kind of went back to it like, ah, dude, my addiction's gone. I never have to worry about that again. So I can have I can have a beer now. I'll keep it to just beer. Then keeping it to just beer, said, well, I can have some wine sometimes, just no hard liquor. And then that turns into hard liquor, and you're right back in it.
Yeah, give me some mouthwash. I'll make it a problem.
Dude, yeah, really. No kidding.
It
All
didn't
right.
it didn't ever matter what it was or what was going on.
No, it didn't. All right. So then you're out of jail, you're back home. You come, you start drinking again. It's
Oh, I had to run
what?
away. I had to run away again, just like I did to Alaska. I had to run away again, but I had to run away on the Appalachian Trail.
Yep, that's
And
exactly what I was going to ask you about. So what made you plan? Well, obviously we know what made you plan this from talking about it, but like what was your mindset going there?
well, the mindset was, how every life transition would had been in my life up to that point, and almost still feels like it today. But it was that a change of scenery, a change of place will fix my internal struggles, with my addiction. And being I was foolish enough to believe that the mountains would cure me, right?
Yeah.
Just like nothing else could. The mountains, I mean, to me, the most, amazing, awe-inspiring place
Oh,
place to
sure.
be anywhere. And that was my thinking. If I can go 5 months and just hike for 5 months, that I will come back a happy, healthy, and more grateful human. That was the hope. And I found out really early on the trail, with like the whole party culture with through hiking, that that wasn't to be the case, because
Right.
it's it's hard for me to be around any of my friends and be drinking, because everyone knows my struggles of however many years, however many decades. And
Yeah.
so what better way to you know, try to enjoy being an alcoholic than to do it around complete strangers, who I don't even
Sure.
know I could be hiking with someone for weeks and not even know their real name, their government name. Everyone has their persona on trail and has their trail name. And, I mean, I got my trail name for getting totally wasted in the first town I went to.
It was
Uh,
Kickstarter, right?
Correct. Yeah, I got
Yes.
so I got so drunk when we got to this town in Helen, Georgia, which is all style. The whole town has to be built with Bavarian architecture, so it's supposed to be set in the Bavarian Alps, and it's
Okay.
beautiful and it's cool. But I went and just started getting these steins of beer that were like the size of my thigh or
Oh yeah.
whatever, and just knocking them back. And then I had a bunch of whiskey, and anyway, my alarm goes off at 7:30 that day, in a hotel, and I get up, and I'm just like, I get up, I get my take a shower, put my contacts in, get my pack ready, get my trekking poles. I'm going out the door, and I open the door, and I turn around to the girl that I was staying with, and I'm like, man, what the hell? Why is it dark out? It's
Yeah.
7:30. It shouldn't be dark. She's like, just go back to bed there, Kickstarter. Um, because I fucking mixed up my AMs and PMs
Oh man.
like a good alcoholic does on their day off.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I was wondering how you got that name. That's great.
Yeah, yeah, you get your name, on trail by doing something either like heroic or really just silly and stupid, and mine
Yeah.
was just being completely shit-faced.
Yep. Right on.
But what did I care?
Um,
I didn't know who I was with.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I want to tell everyone announcement that Kyle is writing a book or has written a book. It's in whatever iteration of editing. I have had a chance to read some of it. It is absolutely awesome. If you know Kyle, it's like you can hear him telling you the story while you read it. It's definitely in his language. And yeah, man, any idea of when that might be ready for public consumption?
Well, I'm hoping to finish up. I'm about three-quarters of the way through my last edit. I've done, like 8 different rounds, but I don't know. I've been working on it almost a little over 5 years now, and I need to just stop working on it. But
Yeah,
I'm hoping that it'll be all done, and someone can just put some red ink on it in about 6 months, and hopefully we can have it in print sometime around there. But yeah, it's a heavy, really heady story. It's based around my addiction. The main character of the book is not Kickstarter myself, or even the people I hike with. It's my addiction, and it's written as you can see how I speak to myself as an alcoholic in these masochistic tongues of like, just really being, how hard on myself I am, through my alcoholism. So it's gonna ruffle a lot of feathers in the Appalachian Trail community, but it is a very personal and vulnerable look at alcoholism, and it was really cathartic to write. I started writing it when I was still drinking. I was sober for a few years and did a lot of my research, and for these last couple years, I've just kind of put in as much. I want it to be informative, not just about the AT. I want it to be informative to someone that has had someone affected by alcoholism or addiction in some sense, and have
yep,
better understanding of what's going on inside one's head when shit's going down.
yeah. That's awesome, man. I'm very excited for you. I'm proud of you for doing it. Well, writing for you, I think is pretty natural. I've read your notes, your poems since high school. Um, you've always had a knack for it, a way with words. So, dude, I really I can't wait to read the final product. Definitely excited for you.
Well, let's hope it's sooner than later. I don't
No,
have
I hear
another
you.
5 years to put into it.
Hey, did you find writing it therapeutic? I think you kind of mentioned that. Like, I have my channel on the wagon. I'm very open about my alcohol, my past love of alcohol. I should put it, which is weird. Like, dude, I don't. This time around, I don't even have an inclination to even pick up a drink. Like, I don't have a want for it because I'm so motivated right now from all the good that has come from putting it away. So, like, my book is this podcast or my YouTube channel or now working out. I'm trying, which will bring me to another point. But did you find writing this book therapeutic at all? Or
I did. I mean, I found the whole process of it very cathartic and very reflective, and it gave me that time to really look back on how on how should I say it? how blessed I was just to even have the chance to do what I did. But
Hmm.
sometimes I can be reading it and writing as well, and sometimes I get a little too pulled into my character, and it can it can be a detriment, and I have to walk away from it because I can see my mind changing.
Sure.
I can see my thoughts changing in a negative way. So
Like the
it's not
dark
it's not
clouds coming over.
right, right. And so sometimes I have to just walk away with it. But yeah, so it's it definitely has been therapeutic, but it's also been equally really difficult to read some of my words. I mean, sometimes I'll read sections of some of the days, and I'll cry just while writing it or reading it because it's my story,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah, sure.
we all want to write a book, but I don't know how many of us want to write a book that's deeply personal and
And
takes
honest.
a raw and honest look at like who you are, right? And
Yeah.
the
Yep.
life you've been leading. And in my case at the time it wasn't it wasn't a great life. I was living as an alcoholic while doing this amazing, incredible, once in a lifetime thing.
Yeah, right on, dude. Like I said, man, I'm so proud of you for doing it and can't wait for it. That brings me, so you kind of brought up a good point by, rereading it and it sucking you back in. I don't know if it's a direct comparison, but what are your thoughts on, because other people have said this to me, what are your thoughts on, so I started picking up like a lot of hobbies, like I call them hobbies, but it's more like lifestyle. I'm changing my lifestyle. So I started doing a lot of woodworking. Metal detecting has been huge for me. I've heard the concept, or I've heard the thought of other people saying, well, dude, you're trading one addiction for the other.
That's
And
bullshit.
yeah, it kind of took me aback and I looked at it. I'm like, well, I mean, am I? Is it an addiction or is it me keeping myself busy moving forward? Like I'm learning new skills. I'm in college again for freaking data analytics. I don't know shit about data analytics. It's complicated as hell, but it keeps my attention. You know what I mean? It's a challenge. Woodworking, I'm just learning.
Well, I mean, I poured myself into becoming a competitive endurance athlete, right? And so that's like where my energy went. My energy's like gone into my body and running these stupid long races, and putting my energy there and putting my energy into training and taking my care of myself in that way, and again, like reading, writing this book, and you have to have things. I have to, this alcoholic has to, have something. Like there's no more lightning in a bottle for me. There's no like quick fixes to all the damage I've done. So I need stuff that's gonna like be lasting. I need things that I can do for extended periods, like say running. I mean, I've been running now for, I don't know, 8 years or something. It's been a
Hmm.
big part of my recovery. It's been become a big. I mean, it's my main coping skill, right? I mean,
Right.
the audience obviously doesn't know, but I just had back surgery a couple months ago, and my greatest asset and coping skill and friend in running, was taken away from me, and I couldn't run. So, um, though having a set of coping skills that creates balance is important, and I don't always do a good job of that. Like, like I'm not very black and white. Like I can't just start jogging, right? I got to run a 100K race in the mountains. I can't
Yep.
just
Yep.
move away. I got to move 4,500 miles away to Alaska. I can't
Right.
just take a hike, right? I got to hike 2,190 miles from Georgia to Maine.
Yeah.
So I don't do things small, and it's, and that's a good thing and a bad thing, but I think that's part of like my addiction, right? Like that, and just like I didn't drink small. I didn't, I wasn't a heroin addict small.
Right.
I wasn't making little, like it's just not in my, in my lifeblood, and it's not in my fiber of who I am to not put everything into what I do, even if it is fucking up my life.
Right. No, I hear you 100%. What? So this running thing, dude, I don't understand it, and that's okay because I throw up a little bit in my mouth every time I hear you say you or see you running another long race. What made or how did you know that's what you wanted to do? Like, did you just try it once and say, "Dude, that was freaking incredible," or were you just like, "I'm going to do this," and then just went and did it? Like, how?
Well, I started running. I didn't run since like wrestling practice in high school or something. And then I was in jail and I was on work release and I was working on the back of a trash truck. And afterwards I would have to go to the bus station that would take all the workers back to the jail. And I found I had like an hour and I just started running on the Schuylkill River Trail.
Oh wow.
And I would just run for like an hour after a back-breaking day on the back of a truck, and
Hmm.
that's how I got into it. And I just found that as someone who has like punished themselves through, drug and alcohol abuse for my entire life, um, it just made a positive kind of suffering really easy. Like I'm good at suffering, right? I'm good
Right.
at
Right.
putting myself in positions that are uncomfortable and take a lot out of me and are emotional and stuff. I mean, all these races, there's never been a single race that I've entered, or even a long run that I did, not a race. There's never been one of those runs where I don't just have a tear going down my cheek, like thinking about how fortunate I am to A, have the ability to run, and B, I look back on that time and just started running, and just that I'm not in fucking locked up and
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
caught up in the system and stuff. So, but yeah, so all that suffering and stuff, it just makes it easy for the sport of ultra running to, all its participants and athletes to be able to do well because they're used to suffering. And I would bet that, per capita, per sport, that probably has some of the highest number of people in recovery in it, if not the highest, for that very reason.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought. That's actually a question that just came to my head. Like, are other people in a similar situation? But it sounds
Oh,
like, yeah, definitely.
for sure.
Well, that's good, man. It's awesome to have a community like that, and something to challenge yourself positively.
Yeah, and it goes back to what you were saying. Are you trading it for another addiction? I don't know, but if it's not bothering anyone, and it's not causing anyone else pain, and it's not literally affecting people, just like we thought our addictions weren't, which
Right,
was obviously,
a
completely
fallacy.
wrong.
Yep.
Yeah,
Hmm.
right. But like, if it's not causing a problem, then it's an addiction that can be okay.
Yeah, it's a positive thing to do. I mean, it's benefiting you. It's benefiting those around you. It's a positive community.
Yeah, and you're benefiting your brain by learning new things, by, doing woodworking and scuba diving and metal detecting and whatever else you're going to do next. I mean,
Yeah,
you're stimulating your entire spirit, right? I mean, you want to learn, you're hungry. And it's really important to be hungry for new information and just not be sitting in a stagnant pool where you're getting bored.
yeah, so yeah. It's Groundhog Day. I'm got to stay away from that.
Yeah, that's how
Uh,
you get, I mean, we're all getting old quick, but that's how you get old quicker, is doing the same thing every single day and not, putting yourself in, and not pushing yourself in some way to make your life difficult. Because difficult things aren't, it's not a terrible thing to have a difficult thing happen, right? I
yeah,
mean, or or to not embrace any kind of adversity. I mean, I used to wilt under adversity, and today it's just so much easier for me to just, have a real perspective on like what what is worth our time these days, because we're not
Yeah,
getting any
yeah.
younger. I mean, I feel like
No,
I
we're not.
aged 4 years in the, however many months my back was hurting.
No, I can
You
imagine.
know, but I don't ever let anyone tell you that, that you're just trading one addiction for another. And that's just someone, would say that wishes they were doing the same thing.
Yeah. I actually had a therapist say that to me. Not a current one anymore. I kind of got rid of her pretty quick. I mean, one, she called me cold for, when I was in the Coast Guard, search and rescue. I've had people die in my arms after pulling them onto the helicopter. She's like, "Well, how did you feel about that?" I'm like, "Well, it's kind of goes with the territory. That's what I do. That's what we train for." She goes,
Right.
"Well, you're cold." I'm like, "I'm what?" Like, it's not that I don't care. Yeah, I carry that with me, but I'm
That
not
sounds like
cold.
you had some really good training, because that's exactly how you should be set up to enter those
That's dude,
situations.
100%, 100%. And I tried explaining that to her, and then we got into my drinking and how I quit and how I'm picking up all these different hobbies. She's like, "Well, it sounds like you're trading one addiction for the other." I'm like, "What? Like what? Come on."
Well, as someone who's had a couple of really good therapists, I can also say that I've had, more therapists that weren't as good. So they're not all good.
No, they're not.
Maybe
You just got
instead
to
of
keep
telling
searching.
you how to do your job with the Coast Guard, she should have been, you should have told her how she should do her job, and maybe just sit back and listen for a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. But it is what it is. I mean, point being, like, if you're, find a therapist that works for you. They don't all. Question for you: what would you say right now, as of today, is your main motivation to stay alcohol free?
Well, I mean, one is the realization, um, over the last, I don't know, decade or so, that if I'm not able to get my life together, I will be alone for the rest of my life. And
Hmm.
that's a cold hard reality, because I'm the type of alcoholic that couldn't ever be with another alcoholic, right? And it's too heartbreaking seeing me as an alcoholic for any partner to ever have withstood. And so, that's one of the main motivations, is not to die lonely, right? I mean,
Yeah,
that's I spent so many years drinking because I was lonely. When the fact of the matter is I was lonely because I had to push everyone away as soon as they got close enough, as partners and stuff. So
right,
they didn't know how much I hated myself.
right.
And so, I mean, that's a big motivation, of course, like health and just I mean, everything across the board, right? I mean,
Hmm.
diet, sleep, motivation. I mean, all those things, all free time, any kind of art-driven stuff. I mean, it goes, it just continues to go, and once once you get enough sober time, you can just take a deep breath every now and again.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, just step outside and just, I don't know, take a look at the sun. I don't care what the temperature is. You just take a deep breath and just say, "Wow, man, this is like, I can't believe I lived all those years and spent all that energy trying to live anything but this."
Yeah, it. Yeah, I don't even have words. I mean, you explained it perfectly. We definitely have some pretty crazy stories that we could tell all freaking night long, about how moments lost, or opportunities lost, because we partied or whatever. Um, it's dude, for me, it's such a better world just being sober, being clear headed. The clouds are gone out of my head.
Well, just
Yeah,
not having to spend so much. I mean, I'm just laughing out loud just thinking about it. But like, when you're drinking, you're literally setting yourself up to like live in a lie.
Yeah,
right?
every
Like
day.
to everyone,
Yes,
to
every
everyone
day.
you drive past, you're acting like you're not drinking or whatever. To every to everyone at work that sees you in the morning when you have alcohol in your breath, to how you perform your job, to I mean it just goes down the list. And of course your diet, like I remember asking someone, I was like, man, like what happened? And this person was an alcoholic. I was like, man, like what happened?
Hmm.
How did this happen? You gained like however much weight. And he's like, well, you get home from work, you go to the bar, you have like 10 beers and a roast beef sandwich, and
Hmm.
then you wash it down with a couple more beers and another roast beef sandwich.
Yeah, yeah.
you know,
Seriously,
it's
without a
like,
doubt. Like, dude, yeah, I'm so unhealthy right now. Even after over a year of not drinking, but I'm finally working out. Well, I got one in. I'm sore as hell. I'll get another one in tonight.
it all
And
starts with diet, that's for sure.
I know, dude. I gotta really work on that. Like, big time. Baby steps,
Well,
though,
can
man.
I tell you a good thing to do whenever you go into a grocery store is
Well, yeah,
head right to the fruit and veggie, section first
yeah. Good point.
and see how far you don't have to go out of it.
Yeah, yep.
Just something to think about. That way you can
No,
fill up your cart with a lot of healthy stuff, and you can always make it fun. It doesn't take more than a little bit to create a healthy meal, and that's been an important part of my life as of recently.
yeah, that's a great point. And I think another one for me is I need to freaking prepare my meals because did I always say I'm going to get it in the morning, then I'm running late because
Oh
I
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I hate getting out of bed and then I get to work. I'm like, well, shit. Now I got to eat hospital food, and I go down. I'm like, all right, well, they have a salad bar. Then I get down there and smell the pizza and get like 4 slices of freaking hospital pizza and a chocolate milk and a freaking Rice Krispie treat for dessert. Dude, and it's every day. Not to mention the money I'm spending every freaking day.
Oh,
Oh,
sure.
it's crazy. Oh, it's nuts. But I'll get
Well,
there.
yeah, I'm one thing I wanted to add was that like I'm not, like you do this podcast and have your YouTube stuff, and when you first mentioned to me that you were going to do this stuff to help hold yourself accountable, I was, I don't know if you remember this, but I was just like, I don't know, dude, like that because for
Yeah,
me,
I do. I
for
recall that.
me personally, I like I don't really like count sober time and stuff. Like I don't count days like that because that's just it doesn't matter. And like the higher I get, the more pressure I get on myself. I get to 30 days and 90 days or whatever, or a
Yeah.
year or 2 years. And it's just like, it puts more pressure on myself. And that's just not how my personality works. But this is working for you, right? I mean, you're at
Oh,
400,
100%.
however many days sober. And it's impressive, man. And I just wanted to say sorry to that I was initially a little dismissive of it, but that's
No,
not
dude,
my
no. I
personality,
I
that's your
100% get it.
personality.
No,
Yeah.
no, I got it, man. No, no, it's all good. So, what are your thoughts on medical marijuana? Like, I have mine. I have my card. I know some people will look or will frown upon that because I was an alcoholic. And again, it kind of goes back to trading addictions, but it's medical marijuana is not an addiction at all for me, or for anyone. It's not physically addictive. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I mean, I've been a proud card holder since, as soon as it became legal to get a medical card as well. And it's never been a problem for me either. It's not something that I have ever abused. I've never been
Right,
one of those people that you know, sits down and, smokes a bag of weed or whatever.
right,
But,
right.
you know, it has really been beneficial in during my sober times of not drinking. It just allows me to, like not white knuckle it, right? And just like be gripping the steering wheel and like
Yep.
I don't know, just being like full of like a little more pent up um anger or energy or whatever you want to call it. So it's been really helpful for me. I mean, as far as what I use it for, I generally it's something I use for any kind of physical exertion.
Hmm.
Any of my training, any of my racing, every time I go to the gym, like things like that are like where I'm in a space and putting it to good use. I'm not like using it and then like Netflix and chill or whatever the hell the kids
Right.
say
Right.
these days.
Yeah.
But so there's always a task at hand when I'm using pot, and that's what it's used for. It brings balance into my life and just helps me to regulate my emotions a little better and to focus better when I have one of those positive things I'm doing, whether it's working on the book, running, creating art, or whatever else. So I mean,
Right.
I would recommend so many people to do it. I mean, as someone who just had back surgery, like, you know, and someone that's a heroin addict for several years in the 90s, it's like I could have just become an addict all over again.
Yeah,
Um,
dude, I'm not gonna kid. I'm not gonna lie. I did worry about that with you, personally. Like, I don't know if I worried about it. Like, the thought crossed my mind. I was like, shit. I hope he doesn't, go down the path of pills.
yeah, and my brother pulled me aside and he's like, dude, you think that's a good idea? And I'm just
Yeah.
like, man, I can't even dress myself. You know,
Yeah.
I
Right.
didn't drive for almost 4 months. I mean, I was in pain that I never even knew existed, right? And so it was the only thing that worked. But after my surgery, and I was only taking like, serious narcotics for, I don't know, like 3 weeks or something. But give me another week on them, and I would have had a full blown, um, withdrawal. Even when I came off the pills after my surgery, I mean, I was restless. I was waking up in sweats. It had nothing to do with my surgery. I was like fidgety. I was tossing and turning, getting like
Damn.
all kind. It was like I could tell after that time because I was taking a lot of them because I had to because it was the only thing
Right.
that could
Right.
like literally get me up and moving. So, and and again, like that, being able to go with medical marijuana after that was really helpful as well because that was used also as a pain reliever and and something to really help with that. So it's not. I mean, there's so many different uses for it. I mean, I don't even know where to begin, but I can tell you
Oh
that
yeah.
it's never caused a problem in my life, and it's been, nothing but helpful throughout the years, which is now over 30 years, and
Yep.
it's something that I'm not ashamed of, and I'm not afraid to tell anyone about.
Oh, me neither. I'll tell you, for me, it was, pain in my feet from, I have a disability from the service. So it definitely helps with that. When I quit drinking, I know, I came to realize I have a social anxiety. Like, it's hard where it was harder for me to be around a lot of people or to be at events
I
because
remember
I
you
didn't
saying
know.
that.
Yeah, I didn't know what to do with myself because I was so used to being drunk and like being the party guy and letting loose and this and that. And now here I like the first wedding I went to, I couldn't hang out. I was like, what the fuck do I do? So,
Oh, you mean you weren't cutting up the dance floor or anything? You
oh man, yeah, exactly. Like I'm like, dude, everyone's drinking. I'm not. I don't know how
right.
to act. Like it's just I don't even know how to really talk to people like that. And I'm an outgoing guy. So I found that like I have the tinctures or tinctures, however you say it, and dude, it's been such a helpful thing for me. It just like I yeah, I can't say much more about it. It's been such a positive for me. and for all the people that say, you know, oh, dude, you know, you're an addict and you're taking marijuana. Like, dude, what? Like, come on, it's healthy for you in the way that I'm doing it. Like,
Well,
it's
don't. If anyone that says that, if anyone ever says that to you again, say, well, don't just look at, the history of American drug policy since the,
yeah,
Harrison Narcotics Act in the teens or early 20s, whenever that took place, but look at the 5,000 years before that, or
yeah,
however
yeah,
however many years before that, of what the plant was
exactly.
used for, so many different tonics and all
And
these
so,
different things.
yeah, and some of those same people are the ones that are, you know, taking boatloads of anti, you know, anxiety pills, which,
Right.
hey, if it works for you, that's cool, but
It
it
don't work for
I,
me.
it doesn't work for me either. I choose a natural thing for me. So don't judge me on that. And if you do, you know, that's on you, not me.
Right.
So yeah, man, dude, I'll wrap it up now. We've been talking for a long time. I could talk to you all night about this shit. I just want to, dude, thank you so much for, you know, being open to discussing this. I know it helps people to hear like real people talk about this. I've had quite a few people reach out to me like on the side and, you know, ask me questions or tell me their worries about a family member. What do I do here? And, you know, I tell them what worked for me. Obviously, I'm not a licensed addiction counselor or anything like that. But just by being open about it, being who I am, you being who you are, I know it helps people. When I stopped drinking, you know, I was on YouTube looking for exactly what we're doing right now. Real people talking about real life and real situations, not your cookie cutter, whatever the hell. But yeah, back to it. Thank you so much, dude, for doing this. I'm super proud of you, brother. I don't say that lightly. You've come a long way as well as I have. We've both come a long way from where we were in the past. And dude, I you know, I see a bright future.
Well, it was an honor to be on to be on your show. I never would have thought that we'd be having this conversation in this, in this context.
Yeah, not
With I'm just equally proud on my end, and I've always been proud to call you a friend, and I'll continue to do that until you give me a reason not to.
right on, man. I appreciate that, dude. Yeah, dude. Thanks again. And for everyone else out there, you know, check out my YouTube channel. I do have a Facebook group as well, On the Wagon. And thanks for listening. All right. Goodbye, everybody.